Jim, watchdog journalism, it's grown over the years. Several more people are doing it now around the country. You are the only news outlet dedicated to watchdog journalism right now here. So where does Investigative Post fit into the local media landscape?
Well, as you noted, we're the only news organization that's focused exclusively on that. It clearly gives us a focus. Other outlets, all do some degree of investigative reporting, but it's costly, time consuming, and at a time when a lot of news outlets are challenged by revenue loss, by audience loss, and by just having to do more with less. The beauty of our partnership with Channel 2 is we're able to provide the station with really super in-depth reporting that the other TV stations in town just can't do. I mean, we take days, weeks, sometimes months to turn a story, and there aren't many news outlets that have that luxury of time.
That's right. We're fortunate we have that relationship, Jim. A couple more questions. Some of your most well-known stories, of course, include exposing corruption, the Buffalo Billion program we're talking about, dozens of stories on lead poisoning in the city of Buffalo, and more recently exposing an awful lot of problems in Buffalo schools, even wasteful economic development subsidies. What do these types of stories say about IP's mission?
Well, our mission is really to expose malfeasance, injustice. And unfortunately in Buffalo, I guess fortunately for us or unfortunately for the community, there's a lot of malfeasance and injustice going on in this town. So it keeps us busy. I've got, right now I'm budgeted for 4 reporters. I have enough, there's enough out there for a dozen reporters. State government, I think, continues to be a problem with ethics and a lack of transparency. Local government, City Hall, certainly there's a lot to be covered at City Hall. City government and city schools both have a ton of problems, and so we're focused on that. And this region, this state continues to throw money at development projects in the name of economic development.
Right.
We did a piece last spring about how Industrial Park in Genesee County lured a company there, subsidies worth $4 million per job. Gross waste of the taxpayers' money,
Right.
A gross violation of the public trust. And our job is to stay on top of those things and expose them and hopefully bring about reform. Ultimately, I want our stories to have impact. And that's our criteria we use in selecting what it is we cover. Has it ever been covered before? Can we expose wrongdoing? And if we do so, do we have at least a fighting chance of having an impact in bringing about change?
Jim, you had a whole career, 30 years as a print reporter before starting to do work for Channel 2. What's the big difference between the two?
Well, I like most print reporters, most newspaper reporters, I was not a fan of TV news when I was at the news. But when I started coming to work for you guys, I realized how difficult doing good TV news is. If you're a newspaper reporter, you're kind of on your own. You work kind of quietly, out of the spotlight. The only problem you really have is if an editor wants to butcher your story for length, or if a copy editor puts a bad headline on your story. But for the most part, you're on your own. Television is much more collaborative. It's much more labor intensive. You've got to do on-camera interviews, and a lot of people don't like doing on-camera interviews. You got to work with a camera person and an editor to produce a story. So you're not just on your own. You're really part of a team. And it requires a great amount of discipline. A story that we might, like Jeff's story that's airing tonight, that's 2,000 words online. On television, I think that story runs 3.5, maybe 4 minutes. So you need to be really concise. And I'll admit, sometimes I like the TV version better than our
Right.
online version, because you got to get to the point and you got to tell the story quickly yet thoroughly. So I've grown and I have a great deal of respect for good TV news.
All right,
It's
and a couple more questions, Jim. What are some of the, let's say, the biggest challenges that IP reporters face, and what's the future for Investigative Post and your partnership with Channel 2?
Well, and the challenge we face as journalists is the same journalists at other newspapers and television stations. I think government and corporations are increasingly more hostile to the notion of the public's right to know. A lot of stonewalling, a lot of just trying to get in the way of reporters doing their job. And that's been going on. I've been in this business for, I don't know, 40 years, and it's gotten progressively worse. Our future, I want to continue to grow the organization. We're a nonprofit, and we're really dependent on community support through donations in order to grow our staff. So part of my job is editing, but frankly, part of my job is fundraising too. And we've stepped up our efforts the last couple of years and added staff as a result. But my focus is continuing to grow Investigative Post, to add reporters, to expand our coverage. And I think in addition to covering additional topics, I really want us to double down on issues of corruption and waste. There's so much going on that goes uncovered that I think that's really a big part of our future.
Well, Jim Heaney, you and your team do such a great job with Investigative Post and your stories. We are proud to air them here on Channel 2, and we're also proud of the partnership and the relationship that we have with you. Thanks for joining us tonight, Jim. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Scott.
My pleasure.